Okay. Good morning. Thank you all for coming to this corrections confirmation hearings today. We have several items on the agenda. But what we will do is we have several that are reappointments. If you look on your schedule, Senate nomination number 58, Mr. Robert Leonard Ball of Tupelo. Also, we have a Mr. Senate nomination number 102, Mr. Herbert Randall. And also we have Senate nomination 131, Mr. Willie James Green. And all of these are reappointments. And I've looked over their files and everything seems to be in order. And they are reappointments, so we know that they have passed this test before. And so I'm gonna ask that we take these three up in block and ask for a motion, if there's no any questions.
That'd be our motion, Mr. Chair, that we actually take them up in block.
Yes, okay, that's your motion that we take these three up in block. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just have a general question, I guess.
Okay.
When it says unexpired balance of a 4-year term, now do we know how much time there is to serve?
If
If we do not, that's fine. I mean, you can just share it with me later on. Just
when I found out before, senators, that certain individuals over the course of a term may feel the unexpired term of someone else who was already there. And now they're just up to be confirmed to serve another full term. And that's what's just happened on one of these right here. And this has happened in several other confirmations on other committees that I've been involved as well.
right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there was a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. If there's no other questions,
Move we do advise and consent.
thank you. There's been a motion to advise and consent. All in favor, let it be known by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes carry. Thank you. Now we will move up to Senate nomination number 54. Mr. Marlo Stewart of Terry, Mississippi. Mr. Stewart, if you are in, could you please come and thank you. We're gonna ask if you could sit right there, or you could stand at the podium, either one. Thank you, Mr. Stewart, for coming today to let us briefly cover some questions or concerns that we may have in regard to your nomination. I have looked over your peer report, the study that the information that I have gathered. Everything seems to be in order. I've talked to you some myself prior to this. I think that your experience is going to be a added value to our parole board, but it is at this time that I will relent and let other members of this committee ask questions that they may have, and that maybe you can answer some of their concerns as well. So at this time, I'll leave it open to the members of my committee. Senator Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, for the assistance. Mr. Stewart,
Yes, sir.
I see from your background that you from Terry, Mississippi,
Yes, sir.
born and raised.
No, sir. I was born and raised in Canton, Mississippi.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How long you been in Terry?
I moved to Terry we moved in that house in 2019, just built out there.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you, do you know Willie Bozeman in Terry?
No, sir.
You don't know him?
No, sir.
That would have been one strike against you.
Okay.
Uh,
Good, I don't know it.
And the Hines County District Attorney Jody Owens.
I know Jody.
Well, that's one strike.
No.
I'm just joking, but thank you so much, man, for being here today.
Yes, sir.
I looked at your information and it is quite impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Sparks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. The question I guess I would have, looking at your background, you've got 23 plus years in corrections of some sort, whether it's at the county level as a parole and probation officer, community corrections director. One of the big things that has happened as it relates to parole in the last few years was a parole bill we passed last year that expanded parole eligibility to numerous people that otherwise would not have been eligible. Of course, the next challenge is processing them through and making sure that we parole people who are set up for success. I guess my question would be, and I'm proud to see your background, but as a probation and parole officer, because you dealt with people who had been released, where do you think our attention needs to be focused to try to reduce recidivism or prepare people as they leave MDOC custody?
Well, I think, well, I know.
If you would, press the green light.
He's got it.
Yes, it's on. Okay. Can you hear me better now? Okay. The focus, as always, is in the reentry process. The prisons themselves, and I've never worked in one, so to say, as a guard, but they have specifics that they have to follow from day to day. For success to reduce recidivism is all on how we prepare the inmates to come back out into society, whether it's educational or some type of vocational training. Rehabilitation is a big issue because if, just from experience, I could say 90% of most of the crimes that we deal with are tied directly into drugs. So reentry from the aspect of rehabilitation from drugs, things of that nature, I think is probably the most important thing that we can do to help prevent recidivism.
Well, I would look forward to your input and your service, on the parole board, but particularly since you've worked, for a period of, it looks like at least 6 years as a probation and parole officer, you dealt with people and you saw who was successful, who wasn't, and, maybe what we can do. We've tried to have other legislation to make sure someone has a driver's license when they leave, to make sure that they have the documents, to make sure that they have maybe some certificate of training so that they can go to work. And we have other bills this session that we're trying to partner with employers to do that. But I appreciate your work and I look forward to having you as a member of the board.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Norwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. I guess I live in Jackson,
Yes, sir.
and living in Jackson, the city of Jackson has become a hotbed, if you will, for individuals that we understand have been paroled and have nowhere to go, and they wind up on the streets of Jackson. And I know that there's a requirement that in order to be paroled, you're supposed to be paroled to, supposed to have a physical address. And I don't know if it's been neglect. I don't know if it's been overlooked. I don't know if there's been manipulation. But as a citizen of the city of Jackson, a resident of Hines County, we certainly would appreciate all the attention that can be given to that, because it does the individuals that have been paroled no good, nor does it do this community good when individuals are on the street with obviously in many cases nowhere to go. Because a lot of times these guys are not necessarily from the area, so they don't have relatives that they can, so they're just out there on the street fending for themselves. So could you help us and make sure that you pay particular attention to that, since you're from Hines County, and we can appreciate that.
Yes, sir. I've actually lived in Hines County. My wife and I moved back from, I bounced around a little bit, moved back from Oxford back in 2000. And from being a parole officer, working in that aspect and moving up the ladder into administrative roles, I dealt with a lot of what you are referring to. I would like to say this, though, that since I've been on the board, we have implemented steps to try to ensure that addresses are loaded into the system so that we know that these people do have somewhere to go. And one problem that faces the capital city is that, unfortunately, we have most of your transitional facilities and homeless shelters and things of that nature that will accept people. And what happens a lot of times is we get people from all over the state. And we are in a process, and the current board, we are working hand in hand with our current commissioner in resolving that. And that's one of the top priorities for our recently appointed chair, is to address that issue specifically so that we won't have so many people on the street, convicted felons that, don't have anywhere to go. Yes, sir.
And like I said, we look forward to working with you and Senator Blunt and myself and Frazier and all of us here because we met with the city leadership, we met with county leadership, and now that if you'll be in place, we look forward to meeting with you and working with you to make sure that we can do what we can to not just for the city, but for the individuals that are there as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senators. And any other senators that would like to ask any questions or have any other remarks? Senator Blunt.
Thanks, Chairman. I'm honored to represent Terry in the Senate and represent Mr. Stewart. I think if you've seen his resume, you can see he's highly qualified. I think he's going to bring a valuable perspective to the board. I think he has the background that we need, and I would encourage you to advise and consider this appointment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Blunt. We've heard all questions. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Simmons?
My motion, Mr. Chairman, is advise and consent.
We have a motion to advise and consent. All in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Terry. Welcome to parole board. We're praying that you do as well.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Senate nomination number 76, Mr. Jeffrey Belk of Van Cleve. Would you please come forward? Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Good afternoon.
I've viewed your information from the report that we have, and everything according that I've seen is in order. But of course, I have members of this committee and I value their questions. And so at this time, I'm going to ask if there's any members of the committee that has any questions or concern in regards to Mr. Bell. Senator Chazanah.
Mr. Belk, I'm looking at your references. I see you've listed Bryce Wiggins and John Pope.
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me for that, but both of them have extensive experience with my tenure. John Polk with my, when I came on board with the Contracts Review Board. Once it was reconstituted, I got on it, helped straighten it out and move forward. So John was really, we worked together quite a bit. So he had a lot of knowledge of my actions there. And Senator Wiggins, whether we agreed all the time or not, when I'm still on the Singing River Hospital Board, helped straighten that out and stuff. And Bryce was a integral part of us helping straighten that out, bring things, the open meeting laws and different things worked well together. So he has a vast knowledge of my experience and abilities there. So
And you believe that they have sufficient knowledge of your character that we can trust their recommendation?
I do. That's why
Thank
I
you.
listed them.
Any other questions of Mr. Bell from the committee? Senator Sparks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Bell. As I understand, you are the new chairman.
Yes.
Of the parole board, okay. I guess, again, similar to the question I asked earlier, I'm a freshman legislator, so there's a lot of things that have gone on prior to my arrival that, I may not have depth of knowledge of. But with the parole bill having been worked through the system the last two prior sessions, it's something that we felt like would be a tool that could be utilized in MDOC to help address how to have reentry properly. We have people that are coming back into the workforce that were not prepared or set up for success. And I guess my question would be based on our new kind of parole guidelines, as the chairman, how do you see that? Somebody's eligible, and we recognize that probably some people had instant eligibility under the bill that was passed last year that might not have been ready for parole, but kind of tell me how you approach that. Just because somebody's eligible, we obviously want them to have parole if they're prepared, but kind of what your mindset is in dealing with that.
So what I've seen right now is we're kind of in between a change. We're going from incarceration to rehabilitation. And one of the things that I try to focus on when someone comes before us, everybody's entitled to a fair and due hearing. One of the things I try to look for, are they set up for success? If they have repeated reentry problems because of, drug and alcohol problems, has that been addressed? Have they gotten their GED? Have they learned any skills or trades while they have been incarcerated? Some of the opportunities in the past have been kind of few, but I think as we're expanding out, that's going to be a greater opportunity. So I think, as Mr. Stewart had mentioned earlier, we've been working with the commissioner and some of these programs and stuff to make sure that we knew when people came before us, if they had gotten certain certificates, been through certain programs, been through the Walnut Grove Drug and Alcohol Treatment Pilot Program that's going on now. We actually went up there and toured that Friday. That I want to know that they're set up for success. I think it goes back to what the gentleman said a while ago. We're releasing people into people's neighborhoods. And are they going to be a problem? Or are they going to be a productive citizen? So that's the main thing we're looking for, is are they going to be set up for success? And you're right, there's some gaps right now because of whether it be the Senate bill or other reasons, they are not. Therefore, they may get set off for a certain period of time and to take advantage of some of these opportunities.
So they're eligible but not ready.
Correct.
And that's something I do, and I don't want to speak for the chairman, but I think as a board, having worked on this bill for the last couple of years as a committee, is that if there's deficiencies and you're making those decisions on a case-by-case basis that this person's not ready, at some point we want to know why they're not ready. And like if we're failing somewhere that the legislature can assist, we want to do that, because you guys are tasked with a heavy burden of making a decision whether somebody's ready to be released back into society. But we want to make sure you've got the tools. But I thank you for your willingness to serve.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Just a
Senator
statement.
Norwood.
Thank you, Mr. Belk. And actually, we do look forward to working with you. And I'm glad to hear that Mr. Stewart mentioned that you all had the conversation and you confirmed it. And so we just want to make sure that I'm sure as soon as we're done here, you hit the ground running. We look forward to running with you, because you know the problem that we're facing. So I look forward to getting with you and Mr. Stewart to put our heads together to try and make all our lives a little easier and better here in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the word of confidence. And I also would like to reiterate what you just said. I think it is a we. There are certain things that we see and we need to work together to maybe tweak a few things. And I don't know what I don't know right now, but we'll be constantly in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And I have one question, and I'm sorry, Mr. Stewart, I'll let you get away, but my question is there anything other than what's in the report that would disqualify you from serving in this position?
No, sir, there is not.
Okay, thank you.
Other than the fact, as Senator Chastain pointed out a while ago, of my references that I listed.
We might make that up. We might need to hold your nomination. Senator Chazanov,
For a motion at the proper time,
it's proper time.
that we do advise and consent.
It's a motion that we advise and consent. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Taylor Stringer from Macomb, Mississippi. I'm sorry, on Zoom, okay. We will come back to Mr. Taylor in just a bit. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for your patience. So we will move down to Senate nomination 105, Mr. Max Alton Phillips of Taylorsville, Mississippi, to serve on the Prison Industry Board of Directors to represent agriculture, to fill the unexpired balance of the 4-year term effective from August 5th of 2021 and ending May 5th of 2025. So Mr. Phillips, are you here? Okay. If you would, Mr. Phillips, you're welcome to come and just tell the committee a little bit about yourself. Okay, you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Phillips.
74 years old, father, grandfather, father-in-law, Christian, born and raised in Jones County, graduated in the last class of Ellisville High School, finished at Jones County Junior College, and then 2 degrees from Mississippi State University. Spent a lifetime in ag-related occupations, either as a vocational agriculture teacher in public high schools or as an ag banker in the banking systems of South Mississippi. Currently farm, raise beef cattle, still involved in agriculture, and look forward to this role on this advisory board.
I've read over your information that we've gathered. Everything appears to be in order. Members of the committee, have you still reading? Are you all satisfied with your findings? If so, do I have a motion? Senator from Macomb? Oh, okay. Thank you. It's been a motion that we advise and consent. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, sir.
Now we have, Mr. Taylor Stringer of Macomb, Mississippi, who will be joining us via Zoom. He's also be serving on the Mississippi Prison Industry Corporation Board of Directors to represent manufacturing, to fill an unexpired 4-year term effective May 5th, 2021 and ending May 5th, 2023. I think we have Mr. Phillips via Zoom. Stringer, I'm sorry.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, good morning. Thank y'all for allowing me to participate via Zoom. I'm out of town this week for a convention for work, so.
Okay, if you don't mind, Mr. Stringer. Mr. Stringer, if you don't mind, could you please tell this committee a little about yourself?
Yes, sir. My name's Taylor Stringer, and I work with my family's business, Stringer Industries. Our plant is in Tylertown, and we employ 36 people. We've been in business since 1964, and our finished product is wastewood chippers, wastewood hogs, and debarker heads for the sawmill industry. Generically, at our core, we're a machine and fabrication shop. I bring in raw material, raw metal, cut it, machine it, fabricate it, paint it, put it on a truck, and send it out. I've been there for 7 years. By title, I'm business development, but I get to see it from all different levels. So I'm involved with the operations. I'm involved with the production of internal equipment, selling of our produced equipment, and am looking forward to participate on the MagCorp board.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Senator Butler.
Hey, Taylor, what's going on?
Hey, Kelvin.
Hey, yes, I know Taylor. I've been knowing Taylor a long time, Mr. Chairman, and come from a good family down there in Tattletown, and his daddy and I, and as well as Taylor. Every now and then we get a chance to play a little golf together, so they good folks down there in Tattletown, and I recommend them highly. And at the proper time, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. I just have one question, is there anything that we should be aware of that's not in this report?
No, sir. No, sir.
Thank you for a motion, Senator Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we do advise and consent.
It's been a motion that we do advise and consent. All in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes carried. Thank you. Motion. Rise and report. Thank you.